Welcome to Edtech Spark. What's going on in the world of EdTech? It feels like every week there's something new breaking, some new paradigm shift, especially with AI shaking things up.
Absolutely. It's a whirlwind. Sometimes it feels like we're just throwing tech at problems without really understanding what we're trying to solve in the first place.
I get that the hype can be overwhelming, but I genuinely believe that technology, when applied thoughtfully, can be a massive equalizer in education. Think about personalized learning, access to resources.
I agree in principle, but the devil's always in the details, right? How do we ensure that this technology is actually helping students learn and not just creating new distractions or exacerbating existing inequalities?
That's a fair point. It's definitely a multifaceted conversation. Shall we jump into some of the recent news and see what kind of sparks it flies?
Sounds good. What have you got?
Okay, so first up, Chegg, the homework help site, they're laying off 22% of their workforce. Apparently, free AI alternatives are really eating into their business. It is quite a big one.
Oh, wow. That's significant. I saw that actually. I mean, on one hand, it's sad for the people losing their jobs, of course. But on the other hand, is anyone really surprised? Chegg's whole model was basically pay to win education, right? AI is just democratizing access to, well, maybe not quality education, but definitely access to information.
Yes, and it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? On one hand, you have increased accessibility, but on the other, it's like, how do you ensure academic integrity? How do you teach critical thinking when the answers are just a prompt away?
Exactly. And that's the thing that worries me. It's not just about access, it's about learning. Are students actually internalizing the information, or are they just becoming experts at prompting AI? Are they learning to think or just copy?
Right. And it forces edtech companies to adapt or die, right? Chegg's trying to pivot with their AI-powered study assistant, CheggMate, but it sounds like it's not quite cutting it yet. It has to be differentiated, right? It can't just be a rehash.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. It's not enough to just bolt AI onto an existing platform. You have to fundamentally rethink how students learn and how technology can facilitate that learning, not replace it. And speaking of new roles, I saw this opening that EQL EdTech posted for a K-12 partner success manager. It sounds like they're trying to get AI tools into more schools.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. Fully remote, US time zones seemed interesting. What caught your eye?
Well, the focus on ensuring successful onboarding, adoption, and long-term engagement, it feels like the crucial piece is making sure the teachers and the schools actually find value in the product beyond the initial hype. It's one thing to sell them on AI, but another to make it part of the curriculum. It's about lasting impact, not just a quick sale.
Yes, and that's where the success part comes in. It's not just about selling the product, it's about making sure it's actually working for the teachers and the students. I mean, that role requires understanding how schools buy, how districts operate, all those things.
Right, and that's where I get a bit cautious. The job description emphasizes growth and scale, but is there enough emphasis on ensuring actual educational value? Are they really listening to educators and students or just trying to push a product?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are they building something that genuinely helps, or are they just chasing profits? But hey, if someone with a strong ethical compass takes that job, they could really steer things in the right direction. Be the change from within, you know?
True. It's a good point. Someone who really understands the classroom and can advocate for the educators could make a real difference in that role, shaping the company's approach.
Exactly. And it's not just about the US market either. I saw this article about the edtech scene in Nigeria. It's booming. They're really focusing on addressing specific local challenges.
Oh, I'd love to hear more about that.
So the article highlights 10 people to watch in Nigeria's edtech sector in 2025. What's really cool is that they are building solutions tailored to the Nigerian context. One example is TISAS, which focuses on early childhood education in indigenous languages.
That's fantastic. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's not just about importing Western tech solutions, it's about creating culturally relevant learning experiences. I would love to see that replicated. It's about preservation.
Yes, and I think that's key. It's about recognizing that education isn't one size fits all. What works in Silicon Valley might not work in Lagos. You need to understand the local needs, the local culture, the local languages.
Precisely. And it's not just about language either. It's about the curriculum, the teaching methods, the whole approach to learning. It has to be relevant to the students' lives and their aspirations. And this personalized deduction is needed, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about big, flashy AI solutions either. Sometimes the most impactful edtech is about streamlining administrative processes, making things easier for teachers, freeing them up to focus on what they do best, teaching. There's EdVez, a school management platform that's aiming to become the standard for schools across West Africa, streamlining operations and giving time back to educators.
That makes so much sense because teachers are already overwhelmed and they're facing enormous burdens. If tech can alleviate some of that pressure, that's a huge win. Because if we are talking about accessibility, we need to talk about time, and tech could save teachers on workload.
Completely. And it's not just about saving time, it's about improving data. These platforms can collect and analyze data on student performance, helping teachers to identify learning gaps and tailor their instruction. And that's why I like the admission specialist role. This precision education idea, I'm intrigued.
That's true, but I also think we need to be careful about data overload. Teachers are already drowning in data. The challenge is to present that data in a way that's actually useful and actionable, and not just more noise. Is the data actually helping drive personalized approaches, or is it just creating more work for teachers?
A very fair point. It all comes down to user experience and design, right? If the data is presented in a clear, concise, and intuitive way, it can be a powerful tool. But if it's buried in spreadsheets and jargon, it's just going to be another burden.
Exactly. And that brings me back to my original point. We need to start with the problem we're trying to solve, and then find the technology that best addresses it. Not the other way around. It's always about the problem, not the tech.
Yes, and I think that's where the Helsinki Education Hub is doing something really interesting. They have an EdTech incubator program where they're testing solutions in real-world educational settings, from primary to upper secondary schools.
That sounds promising. A real world testbed. I like that they are thinking practically.
Yeah, because it's not just about theoretical brainstorming. It's about putting these solutions in front of real teachers and real students and seeing what actually works. They are trying to tackle the real challenges.
I'm a little bit wary of the focus on rapid prototyping. It might lead to solutions that are not well suited to the complexity of real world educational contexts. I hope it isn't only focused on speed.
True, there's always a risk of sacrificing depth for speed, but I think the key is the feedback loop. If they're constantly gathering feedback from educators and students and iterating on their designs, they can avoid some of those pitfalls.
That's true. Constant iteration is vital. It also depends on how diverse the test environments are, right? Testing a solution in one school in Helsinki might not tell you much about how it will work in a school in rural Nigeria, for example.
Right, and that's where cultural sensitivity comes in again. What works in one cultural context might not work in another. You need to be mindful of those differences and adapt your solutions accordingly.
It's a really tricky balance, isn't it? Trying to create scalable solutions while also being mindful of local needs and cultural contexts. It's a difficult challenge.
Definitely. But I think the potential rewards are enormous. If we can harness the power of technology to create more engaging, more personalized, and more accessible learning experiences, we can really transform education for the better. And it is more accessible.
I agree. The potential is definitely there. I just think we need to be very intentional and very thoughtful about how we implement these technologies. It's about using technology to empower educators and students, not to replace them.
Yes, and I think it's also about fostering a culture of experimentation and innovation. We need to be willing to try new things, to fail fast, and to learn from our mistakes. Because the edtech landscape is evolving so rapidly that what works today might not work tomorrow. We must be open.
Absolutely. We need to be adaptable and we need to be critical, not blindly adopting every new technology that comes along, but carefully evaluating its potential impact and making sure it aligns with our educational goals.
Well said. So to summarize, AI is disrupting the edtech landscape, forcing companies to adapt. There's a huge opportunity to create more personalized and accessible learning experiences, but we need to be mindful of cultural context, data overload, and the need to empower educators and students. That makes sense, right?
Exactly. It's about thoughtful integration, not wholesale replacement. Keeping the focus on pedagogy and learning outcomes, not just the technology itself.
All right, great chat. This has been Edtech Spark. Join us next time when we will find out what else is happening in edtech.
Thanks for listening.